So Daniel has joined me on the set. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me in this great living room, actually.
Yeah, nice.
A great location.
So the purpose of this study today is to understand the evolution of video consumption, Daniel. From what I can gather, it's not a particularly easy subject to explain, is it?
There are a lot of moving parts in trying to understand our media ecosystem, right? To name three of them that traditionally are very looked at intensively by studies, it's the devices, so the opportunities for consumers to watch video, right? And there's a real explosion of touch points that are happening for consumers now, today. The second would be the platforms, so the offers in terms of content that consumers can tap into. So there's really an explosion of content as well. And lastly, obviously the most interesting part for our advertisers and agencies watching today is this technology, this abundance of content offers a lot of touch points and connection opportunities. But in this study, we wanted to go a slightly different way.
Okay, so in the face of this transformation, I mean, what's your approach? I mean, what are you actually doing to stand out, I guess, is the question.
Exactly. So, as I said, there are a couple of moving parts here, right? But if you narrow it down to the center of it, you see that at the end of the day, it's the human being, it's the user, or more precisely, it's the behavior, the media consumption of the user that is really the compass in all of this trying to understand the media ecosystem. And so we really focused on that compass in order to derive the best insights for advertisers out of it, so they can make the best investment decisions and connect the best way to their possible consumers.
Of course. So for you guys, the living room was really the starting point for this study, wasn't it?
We wanted to go where most of the consumption is happening.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, most of the media consumption is happening exactly here in this nice living room. And to understand this human media animal, you need to go where most of the magic is happening, which is the living room. And that's what we did, where we could observe all kinds of converging and coexisting of media.
So this is a very familiar place to all of us, but I guess the question is, what is new in the living room?
Yes, yes. So you might call it a family space, actually, because it is definitely the place where families get together. During the pandemic, the home, the living room, really got more and more important, and that's the bigger context here. We saw that Europeans spend more than 30% of their disposable income actually on making their home a better place. Right.
So what does home mean to the people that you talk to in this study?
Yeah. It's very clear that all of the respondents came back with the home being the center point of their life, being their castle, being their sanctuary, the feel-good oasis, the favorite place, the relaxation room. And we could see that the home really became, on the one hand, the central place of being, and on the other hand, the place of reassurance, of switching off and of tuning out of the stress and the loudness of the outside world.
So what's actually happening here?
The living room is really a multi-purpose room nowadays. But we could see or identify actually two clear focuses of things that are happening here. So the first one, I already mentioned, it has become the family sanctuary. It is the place where at the end of the day, everybody gets together, everybody shares a good moment, a good laugh, has a good conversation. But on the other hand, we also saw that, especially for young, active people that didn't use the living room as much before the pandemic, they really reconnected with it and spent more and more time in it, because it also serves as their home office, because we're all now used to working a lot more from home than we used to.
Okay, so looking at this very special place, it's almost a holy place, shall we say. How did you go about trying to understand it?
Yes. So what we did is, on the one hand, we had 18 in-depth interviews, qualitative interviews, combined with a week full of sharing their media experiences via WhatsApp to us, and combined that with a very broad and profound quantitative study across 10 different markets in Europe, asking over 8,500 respondents about their media consumption habits.
Okay. So the living room is the room where we spend a lot of time, that we've understood. But what do we actually do in the living room?
Yes, very good question. We asked them, the first question was really about, so what's your favorite activity at home, right? And I can imagine you have a lot of activities in your head that you could do now.
Yeah.
But actually, over half of the respondents came back saying that watching videos is among their top 3 activities at home. Now, as always, there are local specificities. So if you move a little bit up north to the UK, it is actually among the top activity at home. Same goes for the Nordics. For my people, the Germans, we tend to focus more on gardening and home improvement, it seems, but it's still within the top 3 activities in general at home.
Okay, so now that we know the screens at the centre of our household, the second question is, which screens?
It was clear in the study that the big screen, the TV screen next to you, has become the central point of consumption, of video consumption. Mm-hmm. And what you see is that 3/4 of Europeans use it every day. Mm-hmm. And not only do they use it every day, but they spend the most time with it out of all the screens they have in their homes.
What's the importance of the big screen in the living room? It's really increased, hasn't it?
Yes, the pandemic skyrocketed video consumption on the big screen. It naturally had this tendency due to the lockdowns and everything, but also beyond, we see that 31% of the respondents, of all the respondents, claimed that after the pandemic, after the lockdowns, they now watch more television or content on the TV screen than before. And amongst young audiences, it's even more. It's 35% claim that they are now using the TV set more than before. The same goes for Germans, Italians, and Spanish. They all had a boost in their consumption on the big screen.
So at the heart of the house is the living room, and at the heart of the living room is the television, of course. So we invest in our homes today, that I've understood, but do we also invest in our televisions?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
So the TV screen, as you rightfully said, has become really the epicenter of any media consumption in the household. And hence people are investing into it. So 9 out of 10 European households have at least one television set in their household. And looking closer at what kind of television set, they are smart now, right? They are not just lean back medium anymore. They are connected to the internet. And more than half of those television sets, those smart connected television sets, are less than 2 years old, actually. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, 2/3 of young Europeans just recently bought a new TV set during the pandemic. So it's super important, and people are really willing to invest into it.
Okay, so they're investing, but what do they actually expect from the TV set?
One word, more. They want it to be bigger. So almost 40% of the respondents came back and said, okay, so the next TV set, or the one that I just bought, needs to be bigger. It needs to have a better screen resolution. It needs to be bigger. So as I said, the second one is it needs to be better. So the resolution is really about, 4K is the new HD, nothing below that. They need it to be very, very good for the content that they're watching. And lastly, it needs to be smarter. So almost 40% coming back to the question what they expect of a new TV set said it needs to be smarter, and it needs to be connected, and it needs to be more than just a regular good old school TV. Now, this last expectation from consumers is especially important to our advertisers and clients watching today. Yeah. Because this fact that you're connected the big screen to the internet offers a lot of opportunities to creating these new connections and touch points, but it also poses a lot of challenges to advertisers. And that's where Shira and Jean-Baptiste later on will deep dive into these challenges and explain how we can bridge them and solve them from an advertising point of view. Now, the first observation is connecting the television set to the internet is not a gimmick anymore. It's not like super high advanced nerds connecting their television set to the internet. No, it's 80% of the respondents that we asked said they connect their TV set directly to the internet without any other device in between. Now, if you look at other opportunities to connect your television set, there are some. So, for example, there are these TV sticks or these dongles, Amazon Fire TV stick, Google Chromecast, whatever you want to call it. 55 up to 70% of the respondents claimed that they would connect their TV also with this. And finally, you have the set-top boxes, which is culturally a very big topic in the UK and in France, where we see that more than 60%, almost 70% actually, of respondents claimed that their television set is connected to the internet by a set-top box. Now, the only question to solve really is, how can you leverage those opportunities as an advertiser, as an agency? How can you make the best out of this new living room world? And that's where I guess our two next experts will help us to understand clearly how to tackle these challenges and how to make the best out of the new living room.